The fire crackled softly, casting shadows that danced along the cabin walls while laughter filled the small, cozy space. Lucas, Sarah, Daniel, and Ellie, 4 friends bound by countless shared memories, had come to these mountains seeking a weekend away from the chaos of everyday life. Stories flowed freely, each one a little scarier than the last, but as their laughter subsided, Lucas leaned forward, a mischievous glint in his eye. "All right, guys, we've heard ghost stories, but how about Black Hollow?" A hush fell over the group. Even in the comfort of the cabin, the mere mention of Black Hollow cast an unsettling chill. Black Hollow was more than just a local legend. It was a place cloaked in mystery and fear, a forest that everyone knew but no one dared enter. Local tales told of strange happenings, of voices in the wind, of people who ventured in and returned forever changed, if they returned at all. Lucas smirked, undeterred. "Come on, it's just a bunch of trees. I bet we'll find nothing more than squirrels and branches. But what if it's all true?" His eyes sparkled with excitement as he leaned in, daring his friends to join him. "How about this? We go in, spend the night and see what's really there. And to make it interesting, whoever bails first buys everyone drinks for the rest of the year." Ellie laughed nervously, crossing her arms as she glanced around the room. "I don't know, Lucas. They say people change after going there. It's not worth tempting fate, right?" But Sarah, always the thrill seeker, was intrigued. "What's the worst that could happen? We get scared and come back with a story to tell." She grinned, though even she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling creeping up her spine. After a moment's hesitation, Daniel joined in, reluctantly agreeing. "All right, let's do it. But if we hear any weird noises, I'm out." With uneasy smiles and racing hearts, they all agreed. Tomorrow, they would enter Black Hollow. The next evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they arrived at the edge of Black Hollow. The forest loomed before them like a dark maw, its trees towering and dense, their branches twisted into unnatural shapes. A thick fog clung to the ground, and as they stepped out of the car, the air seemed to grow colder, heavier. They stood at the forest's edge, staring into its depths. The path that led inside was narrow, barely visible beneath the leaves and shadows. Lucas took a deep breath, glancing back at his friends. "Well, here we go." As they crossed into the forest, a heavy silence fell over them. The sounds of civilization faded away, replaced by an eerie quiet. There were no birds, no rustling leaves, just silence, as though the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting. Each step felt like a descent into another world. The trees seemed to close in around them, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers, casting twisted shadows on the forest floor. Sarah tried to ignore the growing sense of unease, but the silence was almost suffocating. Then, a sound broke the stillness. A low, mournful howl, echoing from somewhere deep within the woods. Ellie stopped, her eyes wide as she clutched her flashlight. Did you hear that?" Lucas chuckled, though his laughter sounded forced. "It's just a coyote, or maybe a wolf. Nothing to worry about." But as they continued, the howl came again, closer this time. The forest felt alive, as though it were watching them, waiting. And deep in her gut, Sarah felt a prickling sensation, a warning she couldn't ignore. As they walked deeper into Black Hollow, Sarah suddenly froze, her face pale. "Wait, did you guys hear that?" Daniel turned to her, frowning. "Hear what?" It was like a whisper. "My name. I swear, I heard someone calling my name." The others exchanged glances, their faces a mix of curiosity and fear. But Lucas waved it off, laughing. "You're letting the place get to you, it's just your imagination." But as they pressed on, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was following them. And she wasn't alone. Soon, Ellie began hearing it too, a faint voice calling her name, drifting through the trees like smoke. She clutched her flashlight, her hands trembling. "I heard it too," she whispered, glancing around as if expecting to see someone lurking in the shadows. As the whispers grew louder, each one calling a different name, the group began to feel the weight of the forest pressing down on them. It was as though the very air had thickened, making it hard to breathe. Daniel's voice was shaky as he spoke. What if there's something here? Something watching us? But Lucas shook his head, though his confidence was clearly beginning to wane. It's just the forest, trees, shadows, and animals. Let's keep moving. They continued on, though each step felt heavier than the last. Then from the corner of his eye, Daniel saw something, a flicker of movement, a shape darting between the trees. He stopped, his heart pounding. "Did you see that?" he whispered. The others turned, peering into the shadows, and then they saw it. Two yellow eyes gleaming in the darkness, watching them with an intensity that made their blood run cold. The creature was hidden, its shape barely discernible, but the eyes were unmistakable. Wild, feral, and intelligent, they seemed to pierce through the shadows, locked onto the group with a hunger that made them all freeze. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the creature vanished, disappearing into the darkness. Lucas tried to laugh, but the sound came out shaky. It's probably just a deer or something, nothing to be scared of. But the others were not convinced. The forest was too quiet, too still, and the sense of dread was growing, creeping into their minds like a fog. As they ventured deeper, they began to notice strange markings on the trees. Deep scratches gouged into the bark, as though something with claws had torn through it. Patches of dried blood clung to the leaves and branches, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. Then, they saw it. A message scrawled into the bark of a tree, the letters jagged and crude as though carved with a sharp stone or claw. The message read, "Leave before he awakens." Ellie's face drained of color as she read the words, her voice barely a whisper. Who is he? What does this mean? Lucas tried to brush it off, though even he seemed shaken. It's probably just some prank, someone trying to scare people away. But the others weren't so sure. The forest felt alive, as though it were breathing, watching, and the deeper they went, the stronger the feeling of being hunted became. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, echoing through the trees like the voices of the dead. The forest seemed to close in around them, branches twisting and snapping, forming a maze that trapped them within its depths. Finally, Lucas's bravado shattered, panic set in, and he broke into a run, sprinting down the path, his footsteps echoing in the silence. "I'm getting out of here," he shouted, his voice laced with terror. But he didn't get far. A dark shape shot out from the trees, grabbing him by the leg and dragging him into the undergrowth. He screamed, thrashing against the unseen force, but it was no use. Within seconds, Lucas had vanished, his scream swallowed by the darkness. The others stood frozen, horror etched on their faces. Daniel reached out, his fingers closing around empty air. "Lucas!" he called, his voice trembling. But there was no answer, only silence, and the faint echo of a howl, low and mournful. The three remaining friends were in shock, their minds reeling as they tried to comprehend what had just happened. The path they had taken had vanished, and no matter which direction they turned, they found themselves back in the same spot. It was as though the forest itself were twisting around them, trapping them in an endless loop. The howls grew louder, closer, and shadows flickered between the trees, shifting and twisting into shapes that defied explanation. Sarah clutched her chest, her heart pounding as she struggled to keep calm. But the fear was overwhelming, seeping into her mind like poison. "We have to keep moving," Daniel said, though his voice shook with terror. "If we stay here, we're done for." They stumbled forward, each step a struggle, as the forest seemed to resist their movements. The silence was deafening, and every sound, every rustle of leaves felt like the approach of something dark and terrible. Eventually, they were led to a cave, hidden deep within Black Hollow, its entrance obscured by twisted branches and thick shadows. The cave was marked by strange symbols, ancient carvings that seemed to pulse with a dark energy, and the air inside was thick with the scent of decay and death. As they stepped inside, the walls seemed to close in around them, and they could feel a presence lurking in the darkness, watching them with a hunger that sent shivers down their spines. Then, from the depths of the cave, a figure emerged. It was massive, with eyes that glowed like embers and teeth as sharp as daggers. The creature was no ordinary beast. It was something ancient, something born of darkness and fear. In a final act of desperation, Ellie threw herself at the creature, hoping to buy the others time to escape. The creature's eyes gleamed as it caught her, dragging her deeper into the cave. Her screams echoed through the darkness, fading into silence. Sarah and Daniel stood frozen, their minds numb with terror. They knew they were trapped, that there was no escape from Black Hollow. The creature's gaze turned to them, its eyes filled with a hunger that would never be satisfied. As dawn broke, Black Hollow lay silent once more. The forest had claimed its victims, and the cycle would begin again. A single howl echoed through the woods, a reminder that Black Hollow would always be waiting, lurking, for those foolish enough to enter.
Leave your comment and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy and see other stories on the channel. See you in the next story, if you dare.